How much time do you spend? So my ex and I, we do family dinner every Wednesday with our kid, and we do holidays together and, all of that. We probably spend, well, according to the women who he takes on dates, we spend far too much time together. So
that's funny.
That poor man.
Yeah. So you're asking how much time I spend with?
Well, yeah. So yes, like we get so much feedback on people's opinions, and a lot of people are like, that's really cool. Like to say it's only for our kid would not be accurate. Like Richard is just one of my favorite humans. Like I just adore him. He is so supportive. He's so kind. He, when we talk about in terms of like attachment styles, and I can relate to what you're describing about your upbringing, abusive upbringing, a lot of spiritual abuse that went on. And so just a lot of chaos as an adult of trying to figure all of that out. And Richard has been what somebody has described before as like my lighthouse. And that is so true. But the romantic connection is not there for me in that way. And so we get caught up in that because we do spend so much time together because we enjoy each other.
Yeah.
But he's like currently trying
to date.
Good for him. He should trying to move on and trying to date, and people just don't get that. And so, yeah, I guess how much do you spend the same amount of time with Derek and with Chris, or what does that look like?
It depends on the phase, because Derek has worked for me a handful of different times, and me and Chris. And so we tend to spend more time together when we're working together. He doesn't right now. But that being said, I remember a point between when Chris and I were going through a divorce, and Derek and I spent a lot of time together, because the way that I see them both, they both are like brothers to me. Like there's absolutely, from either of us, not from Chris and Derek to me and me to them, there is zero sexual attraction, zero. And I also know if I like had to go on a vacation somewhere and they're like, you got to bring one person, without a doubt, I wouldn't pick a girlfriend. I'm the most comfortable with Derek, with Chris, and I just am, because we've lived so much life together. We have commonalities in that we have kids, and like no one cares about the funny, cute things that my kids do like their dads. You know what I'm saying? And I can have deep conversations with the both of them. So when Chris and I were going through a divorce, Derek was super supportive to me and to Chris independently. Like Chris and I didn't have an attorney. We just did a mediator that did the paperwork for us. And Derek was our mediator. Like I knew he had my best interest at heart. And I knew that he had Chris's best interest at heart. I knew that Derek had his kids and there's just a knowing that he loves my kids fiercely, including Chris's kids. So he and I spent a lot of time together, and absolutely not even a hand graze ever happened. Like I couldn't even imagine. Right. And he's the same way. It's like a hand graze with your sister. But the Instagram, there were so many comments from people, and we would laugh. And for a while, it was hard for Derek, because Derek, he was like, I just don't like, what if people think that we're together? I think they think we're together. And I'm like, Derek, but we're not, and he,
right.
In fact, I think some people thought that part of why Chris and I separated was because Derek and I, there's rumors which were not even close to true. But there then came a point where Derek was like, you know what, like the next person, if she's not okay with the relationship that I have with the mother of my kids, she's not my person, And Chris and I, we just spent an hour and a half talking last night about some of the, like you say, lighthouse type things, right? A lot of the trauma that is like coming up in my mind that I went through as a kid. And so Chris is someone I can have really deep conversations with, and there's zero threat with Dave. But again, that's for me. I don't care if a man is upset by my relationship with my exes. I really don't care. It's not my right person if it is. And I think both of the guys feel the same way now.
Do women though because I say the same thing, and that's why I always say to Richard, I'm like, I don't even let the conversation, like I'm probably like people are they look at me and I'm like, by the way, I'm best friends with my ex. Like I'm like, you can't, like you are gonna know it the second that you're like in my sphere. But for him, obviously, like he gets a lot more pushback than I do. Also, I'm not trying to be in a relationship, so probably that's why it doesn't bother me in the same way. But do you find that women are more intimidated? Like, so for Chris and Derek, the women that they do date, do they get pushback about you? Like, even if Chris and Derek don't care, do they still hear it?
To be honest, Derek's really only dated one person seriously since he and I, and she and I were good friends. And so we didn't have an issue with that. Like, we were really good friends. We still are to this day. And I met her through Derek. Chris, I don't think he would ever date the kind of girl that would ever have jealousy over that. I really don't. Like, I think their pickers are like, they would probably pick somebody like me who would, and also I don't think Chris cares to waste time dating right now. You know,
I blame him. I'm right there with him.
I have the best situation. And this is me looking for the silver lining, but I really do, because I have two guys who are so devoted to their life and their kids right now. They're not, I haven't had to deal with any of that in 15 years. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Not one bit.
Yeah.
But like, I do think of the kind of person that would be jealous, and neither of those guys would be attracted to that kind of a person, you know?
I think where it gets sticky is that, like, I don't think you have to be a jealous person to not love that your ex spends a bunch of time with their ex. Like, just looking at it from a very like high level logical, obviously you and I have very different perspectives because we do it. And the way you're describing Chris and Derek being siblings, that's how I describe to people all the time. That's literally how Richard and I are. Richard and I are each other's family. Like, we got married so young. We moved hours and hours away from our parents, who neither of us were close to or felt safe with anyway. So that was fine. But it was just the two. I mean, children, like, we talk about it. So our son being 15, and we're like, could you imagine in 2.5 years him getting married and doing what we did? Like, it was insane. But because of that, we had to grow up with each other, and we had to really rely on each other in a different way. So we are for sure family. But I do think about it from the perspective of people who don't get that and just not getting that.
I mean, here's the reality is, I've dated not long term, but like short little bursts of men who didn't like it. And I do not like men who are like that. Like, I very quickly learned that's just not for me.